Hello, hello, hello. Thanks for joining me here. I'm stoked that you're joining me. I'm stoked that you're being thoughtful and intentional about your 2019, the same way that I am being intentional about my 2019. And I'm stoked that you're interested in my 2019 to see how I'm thinking about it. Obviously, you could have had this sheet for free and just worked on it through your own without much guidance at all. But you said, you know what, I think it would be worthwhile to see how Jay is working through his. And I appreciate that. And, I hope to share with you some behind the scenes here that you wouldn't get otherwise. I'm pretty transparent and open in my emails, but maybe not quite to the degree that I will be in this planning sheet, because this is literally an exercise I did just for myself. Was not planning on doing this when I did the exercise, but an exercise I did for myself so that I could think about this year, next year, and how to structure what that looks like. So I've worked with about a dozen people personally through this format over the last 2 weeks. I've seen it be super helpful and useful as an exercise before they work with me and after. Before anyone came on and talked with me, they worked through about half of the sheet on their own. And then I came in, added the bottom half of the sheet, and walked through some of the steps I'm going to walk you through on this video. So please take this seriously. I will say on the sheet, it's if you haven't already looked at it, please take it one question at a time. Don't look at the sheet and then go all through all the pages and read all the questions. It's actually more effective if you just go one question at a time and follow the progression with me in the way that I've laid it out. So I'm going to talk you through each of those sections and how you should approach it. Well, actually, I guess that doesn't make a lot of sense because I'm walking through the whole thing. I don't think it's going to be a big deal, but follow me through this progression. Do it one step at a time. Don't try to think about the steps that are moving forward. Try to do one step at a time. And maybe before even watching this whole video, I would say pause this and do the first question on your own. Just do this stream of consciousness question on your own, then come back to this. We'll walk through the rest. But I think that stream of consciousness portion in particular is really important to you, for you to do just in your own head without a lot of thought. Just put fingers to keys, write out what you think about the coming year. And I'll talk to you more about that here in a second. So I'm just going to share my screen. I'm going to put up my goal setting sheet and just walk you through question by question what I'm thinking about for 2019. So here's the sheet. Here's the sheet. Obviously, I can't stop you from sending this to other people, and I'm not even going to tell you like you can't share this with other people. I want this to be helpful. If you think that you know somebody who could really benefit from using the sheet, go ahead and send it to them. Please don't like publish it on your social media or something, but otherwise, if you think this can be helpful to somebody, please share it with them. The first question here is, what do you hope to accomplish in 2019, and how is that different than 2018? I'm not going to ask you to do a full reflection on 2018 and what you've learned. That might be useful. I think it's a kind of a separate exercise, but if you think that's going to be useful for you, why not just put a document together that says 2018, run through some of your accomplishments, make a list of some of the things you accomplished, celebrate a little bit, and then look at things that you failed on. For me, the exercise is looking at 2018's goal sheet, seeing the goals that I laid out, and then kind of doing a retro on, okay, where did I land? I didn't have this full format last year. This is something that's evolved from last year's format, and I like this a lot better, I think. But to be honest, after my 2018 goals, I checked in on them once every month or every couple of months. But the real power here is in setting them and thinking about them, because it starts to sort of manifest as you go through your day-to-day and you understand the direction you're going. You want to be directionally correct. But a lot of the things that I hadn't really thought about or put a lot of intention kind of in the day-to-day to do, but were on my goal sheet, still happened, which is really, really surprising. And I think speaks to the power of setting an intention. I think it sticks with you. I think it stays with you, and it will inform your behavior moving forward. So what do you hope to accomplish in 2019? How is that different from 2018? For me, I want 2019 to be an evolution of me and my business, moving from what I would refer to as a more freelance path to a more entrepreneur path. And this is kind of a Seth Godin difference, or a Seth Godin definition of the difference, which is basically to say, if your income is dependent on your time, then you are a freelancer. If your income is generated by some sort of generative asset that you don't have to be actively working for you to be making money, then that is an entrepreneur kind of venture. That's more of an entrepreneurial route. For me with these 2019 planning sessions, I'm kind of in the middle because I'm not really doing client work per se. With Unreal, it's facilitated group learning calls through the 12-week program. And so I'm paid because I'm on those calls and I'm accumulating them, but I'm not actively creating some sort of project. And similarly with these 2019 planning meetings, I sold half the spots while I was sitting, in lotus style on a meditation retreat. It was all through automations and things. And so even though I was generating income through that process, it's still dependent on my time. Like that was just a pre-order of my time essentially. So most of my income this year was through something that was dependent on my time. Even the LinkedIn courses that I do, I get paid in advance to do those courses. Eventually I get paid royalties. That's a different model. When I'm getting paid royalties, the work's been done and I'm generating income from that. That's much more the direction I want to go to in 2019 with my business. 2018, like I said, mostly client-ish work with Unreal and the creation of assets for LinkedIn Learning, and some time with Smart Columbus as our entrepreneur in residence. I also did some workshops. So that's the big part of my 2019. That's the big theme. And I want to be able to be generating the majority of my income through these income streams that are coming from generative assets, things that have already been created, and I get to leverage just to make an income. I still plan to do Unreal. I think Unreal will actually grow and improve when I'm less dependent on it for income. But this coming year, I plan to do 3 cohorts of the Unreal Accelerator. This year I did 2, last year I did 2. I meant to do 3 this year, but I didn't get ahead of the marketing cycles. So when we get to October, which is when the last cohort ended, it just doesn't make sense to try and do a cohort through the holidays. I don't think it would be setting people up for success to try to hold them to a weekly cadence through Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's. So the last 2 years, I've kind of just put things on pause through the end of October, November, and December with Unreal. But this coming year, if I lay out the calendar correctly and stick to that schedule, I'll be able to stagger things a little bit and have 3 full cohorts that go through 2019. So again, the biggest thing here is that I want to create, publish, and market products, generative assets, create, publish, market, generative assets. And so that hinges on a couple of things: deciding what products I want to build and creating a content and production plan that actually works for building a pipeline of leads and then, converting them into customers for those products. So 2019 to that end is going to be a little bit more about intentionally building and marketing myself and the platform that I'm building here for myself in Unreal. That could be email readers, consumers of the products that I'm going to make, communities that I help create and lead, and podcast listeners. So 2019 is going to be the year of content marketing and content strategy for me, with my emails, with my podcast, with the products that I'm building, and the sort of onboarding strategies to get people into the pipeline for those products. Now, there is a wild card, which I can't believe I'm sharing on this because it's such a wild card, and typically I don't talk about things that I'm not positive I'm going to do. That's something that I make very, very intentional with my own brand, my own reputation, is that I don't want to be the guy who's shiny new object syndrome and talking about all the ideas I have and then not following through on them. I know a lot of those guys. It's exhausting. It's hard to get excited about something that, someone's not ultimately going to build, but it's in my planning document and you're here on this video. So you're going to find out a little bit about it. There's a software product that I'm considering a build out of that is related to communities. The problem I'm obsessed with here is that as a community builder or a community organizer, there is not a software tool that functionally operates the way I want to build and engage a community, nor does the actual revenue model behind those platforms work. Example, I run Unreal Collective on a Slack workspace. And we have 60 people in there right now. I love it. It's super useful. It's great to stay in touch with that community. There's an upper limit on how many people can be in that community before it becomes less useful. We have a Slack for the Columbus startup ecosystem that I put together, the startup community. There's about 700 people in that Slack, and a very small proportion are active. If there were hundreds of people active, that would be crazy. It wouldn't work on Slack. But let's even just say that there were 700 people and it did work and it was great. Slack limits what you can do as far as saving messages unless you pay for a premium plan. And a premium plan is $8 per user per month. Put that into this Startup Columbus Slack example or the Unreal Slack example. If I were paying $8 per user per month for Unreal for 60 users, I'm very quickly bankrupt and the business doesn't work. So the model doesn't work there. My other options are Facebook groups, forums, just doesn't work. I don't know what the solution is. I think there has to be a solution here and there will someday be a solution that works for people. And so I'm obsessed with that problem. I want to solve it, but my actual goal here is to validate or kill that idea by the end of the first quarter of 2019, because I can't spend a ton of time thinking about it, taking baby steps towards it. It's just an opportunity cost. So that could change a lot of my second, third, and fourth quarter goals if in the first quarter I validate this idea and decide that I want to pursue it. So this is the first section. This was just stream of conscious. I know it looks kind of well formatted, but I write a lot. This was just stream of conscious, what I'm thinking about 2019 and how it's different from 2018. So the next question is breaking things down into your biggest priorities for 2019 and literally just making a list of them, thinking of them as like buckets or projects or compartments for how you divide your time. So the example here that I gave were your core business, your side project, an idea you have, volunteer organizations, anything that you are bucketing time into, you want to put on this list so you're tracking and being honest with yourself about where you're actually spending a lot of your time throughout the weeks, months, and the year. So for me, these buckets right now, and this is pretty much specifically looking at my work life, which is most of my life, I'll be honest, Unreal Collective, LinkedIn Learning, Upside, the podcast, For Freelancers products. I'll explain more about that. Work in Progress, which is my email newsletter. Tribes, which is this software company that I was just spitballing. The Create Columbus Commission, which is a young professional volunteer board that I serve on. Coaching, which is something that I do as an add-on to Unreal and a little bit outside of Unreal. And speaking. Speaking is something I started doing this year. Went to Alaska, went to Alberta, spoke a couple times in Columbus. I'm starting to get some speaking opportunities. They pay in different ways, some of them with cash, some of them in tickets or flights or whatever. But it's something that is fun to do and I didn't want to not do, so it became part of my life and where I'm spending time. Again, this is just a list. No need to prioritize right here, just freeform. Where are the things you're spending your time on? Next question, what did you forget? Because like me, when I ran through this the first time, I gave you all of these things related to my work life, but that's not all of me. I'm a holistic person. I have other things that I want to spend my time on and other places that I want to put my energy. So what did you forget here? If you forgot to mention your full-time job, maybe you're hustling on something on the side and that's where all your attention is going for this 2019 planning. Don't forget about the full-time job and don't forget about the time commitment that you have to that job. Like we have to be aware of and track that. Family obligations or dedication to exercise. So for me, I want to keep spending time with my friends, family, and my girlfriend. Those are things that are important to me, and I want to make sure that I have a full picture of where my time is going, and I'm going to have a significant amount of time going to friends, family, and my girlfriend. Exercise. Right now, I'm in kind of a down time of exercise because I got so busy, and I've been prioritizing work above exercise. Those trade-offs happen, but if you want exercise to be a priority for you, as I do, you need to keep reiterating to yourself that it's somewhere you need to spend time and that you're going to prioritize some time for it. So exercise, a better cooking and eating routine is important to me in 2019. It'll help me save money. It'll help me be healthier. It will actually let me exercise less frequently and still be as healthy as I want to be if I just eat better. my meditation practice, which, I started at this Vipassana retreat. I would like to maintain that. And they recommend a minimum of an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening, which seems like a lot, but when I do it, I feel focused and I regain a lot of that time just in the efficiency through my day because of where I start. In general networking, I've scaled this way, way back. I used to go to a ton of community and networking events because I kind of felt like I had to. I kind of felt obligated. And some of them I really wanted to go to and see people. Right now, events like that are not a priority to me. I've really scaled them back. I've met a ton of people, and I'm so lucky that I have an amazing community around me. And a lot of times when there's someone I should meet, they are funneled to me somehow, which is amazing. So I prefer to keep my networking at this point to very personal one-to-one meetings with people through Zoom or over the phone or in person if they're in Columbus. And I'm going to continue to do that because that turns into one of the best lead generators for Unreal when the time comes. So the next question, after you list out anything else you forgot in your priorities list, is to rank those priorities in order. I broke this down into two things, and you can see a little bit about my priorities here. You could put this in one list. I looked first at the huge components of my life at this point in my life, which are my professional ambitions. So I put those in this category of rocks. Last year when I did my goal setting, I did rocks, stones, and like sand, which is how I prioritized the projects I spent my time on. Rocks are these things that they're the most important. If you accomplish nothing else, you accomplish the rocks. If you spend time on nothing else, you spend time on the rocks. Then you can filter stones around the rocks. And then you can filter sand around the stones if you're filling time. There's a story about a professor who brings like a jar to class, and he has a bunch of rocks, and he has some smaller stones, and he has some sand. And he asks people to fill the jar with these things. The people who start with the sand fill half the jar. They try to put rocks on top of it. They can only fit a few. You understand the point. The point is you want to fill the jar with your rocks first, so you make sure you get as many of those in there as possible. Then you fit the stones around those rocks, and then you fill in all the gaps with the sand. So for me, the things that I'm spending most of my time on, most concerned about spending time on, are the things that are related to my business and what brings me income and what brings me fulfillment. Pragmatically, if I don't bring in income, I can't keep living this life that I'm living, and things change. So as I'm continuing to sprint to a place of more comfortable sustainability, then I'm going to keep focusing on some of these rocks. So as you can see, this is my prioritized list. Unreal Collective comes first because that is my main revenue generator. It's working, it's set up, it's awesome. I love spending my time on it. And it's a repeatable, predictable level of income for me. Second priority this coming year is my products, the idea of creating generative assets. If I'm going to be serious about shifting my income to an asset-based place, I need to very strongly prioritize the creation and marketing of those products. Followed by the podcast. The podcast makes me no money, takes a lot of my time, but is opening a lot of doors and introducing me to a lot of really great people and a huge opportunity for building on my platform and the people that I want to reach. We have hundreds and hundreds of people who listen to the podcast every week. That's amazing. That's crazy. That's like a crazy reach. I don't even know who most of them are because podcast analytics and connection just is a horrible wild west of an industry right now, and it's impossible to connect to them. But they end up filtering through to Twitter and connecting on LinkedIn and sending us cold emails. It's really powerful. I just have a good sense of it, or a sense about it. So I'm going to keep the podcast prioritized very highly this year. Work in Progress is my newsletter. Consistency is very important to me, and if I'm going to keep building on the platform, I need to continue to create good written content that you guys like to listen to, or like to read. So I'm going to keep that as a priority to send once a week this year to start, followed by LinkedIn Learning, which is another great source of income for me. I really appreciate the content that I create there and the opportunity to basically have my content creation subsidized. So I'm going to keep trying to do those courses, and eventually, theoretically, those pay back in royalties too. So could be a really good income generator down the line. Coaching would fall below that. I really don't want to do a ton of coaching in 2019. I don't think it's my highest energy giving activity. I love working with people, and I love working with people outside of the group calls through Unreal. So I'm going to try to keep that limited to members of Unreal Collective in the coming year, and some rare exceptions. Tribes, which is this software program I'm talking about, this could change if I validate that this is a real opportunity and a real problem for people. And speaking below that. Stones, exercise, family, friends, girlfriend, cooking and eating, meditation, networking, and the board that I serve on. So like I said, you can actually take this priorities list and put them into one list. That might be better. I know that I'm spending time on these rocks. I'm going to fit in stones where I can. If I can't fit in a certain stone, knowing myself and being honest with myself, I know that stone's not going to fall on the priority. And maybe, arguably that's not the most well-rounded life I could be living right now. But, I'm being honest. These are my priorities. So what's going well? Where are you winning right now? This is another free form answer that I want you to write down. Don't spend a lot of time thinking about it. But where do you have an intrinsic gut feeling and or some data to say, this part of my life is going really well. I feel really good about the direction of this. And where this is important is I think that you want to capitalize on your strengths and continue fanning the flames of things that are going well. So the first step to doing that is being aware of it and understanding, okay, what is going well for me right now? Where can I celebrate? Where can I put some gas on the fire or fan the flames on the things that are going well? And so first, let's be aware of them. So for me, it seems like the podcast is really, really doing well. Again, there's not great analytics or data to give us a ton of info other than downloads and a little bit of listening information. But the podcast feels like it's going really well. Our inbound communication has skyrocketed. The type of people we're getting introduced to and getting connected to because of it has been incredible. Crazy doors that have opened. A lot of it could just be my own positivity, but I do feel like this is a bigger swing in terms of the types of things that I'm spending my time on. This seems to be the biggest, most national or international type of play that has the biggest reach and the biggest potential impact. This year with LinkedIn, I did 4 courses, just literally finished recording the 4th course yesterday, which is why I'm in this hotel in Ventura, California, which is amazing. And I've made a good income in doing that. And that would not be something that would be easy to replace overnight if I chose not to do more courses or if that was not an option to me next year. It was a significant part of my income this year. It was great. It was a great type of work because it's all written, research written, location independent, and dependent on kind of the work that I want to do, which is amazing. So that type of work was amazing. Really felt like that was a win. And that just started this year. That just started in 2018. Seems like I've been doing it for a long time, but really got started in 2018. The last cohort of Unreal was amazing. It was my biggest group ever. Traditionally, I had done 15 people in a cohort. This was 20 people. The person by person quality of the work they were doing and the intensity with which they were pursuing it was amazing. So I felt like that was a huge win for me. The process for getting people onboarded and getting the calls and things ready to go, so smooth. I understand how to run the calls very well. I also understand how to structure the calls, how to manage my own energy and what I bring to the calls. And I can take now a very specific look at the overall user experience when you join Unreal. And just small little things at the beginning of getting started with the program and at the end, very small things that seemingly would not be that significant are really, really great value adds and have people coming in and then leaving with a much better experience and feeling about their experience than the first cohort, for example. So I feel like that's in a really great place. I have the whole website built out with great infrastructure that does payment processing, tracks memberships. The website has a bunch of testimonials now, and I'm going to be adding some case studies. So super proud of that whole set up. Selling time slots for the 2019 planning was super encouraging. I sold more than I expected. I sold about a dozen, and I was really trying to sell like maybe 10, but I didn't have that many time slots that I thought I would open up. And so I sold more than I expected for a short period of time, and was done mostly through just automated emails, which was super encouraging. And besides the 12 people who purchased, there were over 100 unique clicks on the link of people who were interested. So I know that there's real potential there for helping people and connecting with people and creating products that work for people. And all the feedback from these planning sessions that I did was fantastic. People were really, really excited about the plan they walked away with and the insight that they got with just the hour of talking with me. And this exercise I know is super valuable. So that was really encouraging and gives me a good feeling about creating more products in 2019. And outside of all this work stuff, I'm very happy. One of the biggest takeaways from my meditation retreat was that being out of my day-to-day life for 10 days was really hard because I love my life and it's amazing. I love my family. I am surrounded by amazing community and friends in Columbus and outside of Columbus. And I've started dating somebody and it's been great. So I feel good about the end of 2018 here, and really 2019 is scaling back on the things that aren't serving me long-term and really trying to accelerate the things that are long-term wins. So here comes the fun part. This is where we start to get very, very specific about our goals. Weird noises in this hotel. This is where you get very specific about your goals. What measurable goals do you have in 2019? And you can think about what you wrote on page 1 or with your priorities above. You probably want to take the buckets of things that you had and put a goal around each of them so you know you're progressing on each of them. And I like the objective and key result format, OKR. This is something that is based in product management, but it's the idea that you have a general objective like grow my email list, and then you have a key result that is the measure to know you've achieved that objective. So it could be 5,000 email subscribers is what I have on the sheet. So my goals for this coming year in OKR format, grow Unreal and have 3 full cohorts this year. With a goal of 50 students total, 50 members, students, people who've done the program. Second goal, continue doing as many LinkedIn courses as possible, preferably in the small business and entrepreneurship category. This doesn't have a measure on it. I would like to do as many as possible. I would like to do 4 again. So let's put that there. Goal of 4. Preferably in the small business and entrepreneurship category. And I say that because 3 of my courses this year were in the product management category and catalog, which is great. It's going to be super valuable for people on LinkedIn. That is less likely for me to repurpose and sell on my own because that is not typically the reader of my emails or the audience that I've built on my different social media. Most of my audience, people who read my emails, people who follow what I do and that I engage with, they are entrepreneurs or freelancers or small business owners. So this course I just finished is related to freelancing. And I would love to do more courses in that vein because that becomes some really great repurposable content. I would love to onboard a podcast sponsor to cover our production costs. We have a very promising conversation open right now. If that doesn't go our way, that's okay. We will find somebody else. But to give you some context, we put about $4,500 into the production of our podcast this year. 38 episodes will have aired in 2018, and actually now it's probably close to about $5,000. So it's significant. It's not insignificant, the amount of money that we're spending on this thing. And a lot of it was upfront costs that we won't have to do next year. But it's not cheap. We spend probably about $100 per episode, maybe a little less than $100 per episode to produce right now. And that's significant. So I would love to offset our costs with a sponsor. Sponsor is not for us to make money. I don't expect to make money on the podcast in the immediate term, but I would like to offset the pure costs. I would like to grow our podcast listeners by getting to 3,500 downloads per trailing 30-day period. That means that after podcast release, in the first 30 days, I would like to see 3,500 downloads per episode on average. If I released an episode yesterday, which I did, I would like to see 3,500 downloads on that episode 30 days from yesterday. I'd like to grow my email list to 5,000 subscribers. I would like to be actively selling my first 2 For Freelancers products, and that's a little bit of a intro. The products that I'm going to sell are going to be products for freelancers, and they're going to be in the vein of marketing, selling, personal branding, finances, and they'll literally be under the names marketing for freelancers, selling for freelancers, finances for freelancers, personal branding for freelancers. I would like to be actively selling the first 2 of those products, whichever ones I choose, by the end of 2019. I think it's conservative. I'll be able to do more, but I don't want to just like create the courses and have them sitting and not be actively selling. It's more important to me to create one and be selling it and have a good funnel for it than to have 4 and no sales. I would like to earn my first $3,000 month with my first product, whatever For Freelancers course that turns out to be. I would like to validate or kill tribes, this idea of this software. And I would like to increase my annual revenue and break the 6-figure mark, which, if you want to get super behind the curtain, was about $80,000 this year. So next question, once you have your goals and you have this whole list of priorities, if you're like me, you've probably put on more than a person can realistically do. So the first question is, all right, let's get real with ourselves. What can we cut off of this list? And it could be your priorities, it could be your goal list, but let's say that I really, really wanted to focus on goals 1, 2, 3. Goals 4 through 9 are inherently at odds with accomplishing the first 3, because these all take time. They all have their own opportunity cost. So if you really, really care about these 3 things, probably the best thing you can do is say, I'm not going to put any time into these other goals. It was hard for me to prioritize these goals because some number of them, I don't need all of them to hit. I would like all of them to hit. And I think I personally have the capacity that I can do a lot of these things because I've been practicing, really dividing my time and doing a lot over the last couple of years. But I'm going to continue to try to push the majority of these things forward, because if I get 5 out of 9 of these, that's okay. There's not one of these that I am completely saying, this is what needs to happen this year, or I'm screwed, or this is what I'm going to need to happen this year, or I'm not happy. These are all goals that would be in their own right, and it doesn't have to be any one of them. Whatever the win is on these, it's going to unlock a lot of emergent next steps. So where can I cut? I'm going to keep cutting down on networking. I'm going to spend less time going to events and really try to keep in-person meetings to a minimum when I can, because I want to avoid commute time. And frankly, I think a lot of calls can be done in about 30 minutes. When you meet someone in person, you really try to set for a minimum of 45 and probably closer to an hour just to make it worth travel time. So now you're already talking about 60 to 90 to 120 minutes per meeting, which takes up a lot of time when you meet as many people as I do. So I'm going to cut down on networking a little bit. I'm going to keep coaching and speaking to an inbound and as needed basis. Those things are purely attached to my time. So I'm not going to go actively out prospecting for speaking gigs or seeking out coaching clients. I'll have a conversation with folks when they are interested, and I'll evaluate whether it makes sense if it's outside of Unreal or not. But I'm going to try to keep that to a minimum. I'm going to keep writing weekly instead of daily. It saves me a lot of time. I could scale back my LinkedIn courses if I'm not getting the right courses. They want me to completely do product next year. I may balk at that a little bit just because it's not as aligned with the long-term things that I want to do. Be good for cash flow, but would not be as long-term of a value activity to me. I could scale back and do 2 cohorts. So scale back 1 cohort and do 2 cohorts of Unreal next year. If things were going really well and I wanted to save some of the time to do product development, I could probably get away with that from a pure cash flow and income standpoint. I can completely cut tribes, and I'm going to try to do that by the end of Q1. Like, I'm really going to have a compelling set of data and information to say, you know what, you should do this and deprioritize some of these other things, because it's kind of outside what I want to do. It'd be a completely different direction for me to like start and run and bootstrap a software company. So I'm really trying to prove to myself that I shouldn't do it in the first quarter. And the revenue goal that I've listed here, increase my annual revenue and break 100K. There's not a real reason that I need to do that other than like vanity. So I'm not attached to that goal. And if I wanted to break $100,000, I could very easily do that through all kinds of things, but mostly related to client work. And I'm taking the stance that I would rather take a step back in income if it affords me the time to create generative assets, so that over time, that investment of my time is going to pay back that opportunity cost of income. I'd rather take the time to develop something that's going to be long-term valuable to me than fill my time with client work that's going to make me more money this year, but ultimately then be out of my hands, and that money will go away. Next section. What are the clear challenges, knowledge and skills gap that you have? Think about your goals. What's standing in your way to accomplish any one of them? You can go one by one and look at if I said like, grow Unreal to have three full cohorts, or grow podcast listeners. Those are goals. I looked specifically, what are clear challenges related to that? Podcast marketing is kind of a wild, wild west. So that's a challenge in trying to hit that subscriber goal. I don't know the best marketing plan for that. With Unreal, pure capacity. I've got a lot on my plate, a lot of things I want to spend my time doing. Doing 3 cohorts of Unreal could take a lot of time, so that's a challenge. For my goal of email subscribers or my goal of selling products, I've never really done that before. So there's just a knowledge gap of how to structure a strategy around that, how to plan a real true content strategy that's not just writing and shipping an email every week, which I've been doing and has been working for me, but it's not the most effective strategy, because every week I just think about what do I want to write about. And frankly, if I was more thoughtful about it, it could probably be a little bit more valuable to the readers too. So I want to get a little bit more granular knowledge in terms of content, and right now is a challenge for me. Next section, who could help you with those gaps? Literally look at each of these and try to plug in who is a person that can help me with that knowledge or skills gap. This is one of my big ethos components. I think if you have a knowledge or skills gap, it's faster and ultimately more effective to find someone who's cleared that gap, who's doing it at a high level, who has experience with it, and let them fill that gap for you with their knowledge. There's so much information out there. You could research, you could try things, you could get it done on your own. But whenever possible, I try to solve the problem of a knowledge or skills gap by going to someone who's already solved it and getting their advice. So for me, I literally plugged in some of these people. Brian Harris is somebody who understands marketing digital courses and digital products. I just scheduled a call with him yesterday. Jason Zook is a friend of mine who runs a community that's similar to Unreal, so I like to learn from him. He's also created and sold a bunch of digital products, including SaaS platforms. Brian Pennick and Zach Friedman are guys who really studied up on the HubSpot content marketing strategy. I have a webinar with Brian Pennick on Crowdcast that I did with him. James Clear, New York Times bestselling author James Clear, amazing dude. He's built an incredible audience for his email list. So has Webb Smith. And I'd also look into a podcast producer or editor, help doing that next year. That would save me a lot of time and improve our product. All right, now, clear milestones. Think about those goals that you set for yourself. For that to be true, for you to achieve that thing, what needs to happen? What are the very bite-sized, specific, actionable things that you need to do that are steps on the road to getting to that outcome? Break it down as small as possible. So for the goal of $3,000 selling my first product, I'm going to have to choose what that product is, the subject matter. I'm going to have to outline it. I'm going to have to develop that content. I'm going to have to create a content marketing plan for it. And then I'm going to have to begin, employing that. I don't know if I had on this list. I put it in the section below. I'm going to have to begin deploying that strategy and that plan for actually marketing that product. For me to validate tribes or kill tribes, I have to try to validate both sides. I have to do an initial build and have an initial meeting of what UX would look like. Then I'm going to build UX prototypes and go back to the validation stage and say, would you buy this? I know I'm going to sell a LinkedIn course, courses starting in Q1 for Unreal. I'm going to plan out the 2019 important dates and timeline to sell out the first cohort, and the second, third cohort, the third cohort. I'm going to create a content marketing planning for Unreal, production schedule for the podcast, production schedule for the email, content marketing plan for the second product, creating the second product, creating a target list for potential podcast sponsors, pitching them. Very, very specific things. You get the point. Very, very specific things that are going to help you get to your goals. Then put those milestones into areas of your calendar. Okay. So I broke this down into quarters: January through March, April through June, July through September, October through December. Take this list. You don't have to copy and delete it. Leave the list there, but copy each one of them and put this list somewhere in your year to say, in the first quarter, I'm doing these bite-sized things. Getting those goals isn't going to happen by accident. So you have to know the steps. You have to tell yourself, here's when I'm going to accomplish those steps. Here's when I'm actually going to do them. And that's what this section is. This is the last section. You're literally taking those milestones you came up with and just bucketing them in here. And what you're going to find, I'll warn you, what you're going to find is that you will have at least if you're like me, you're going to have a extremely detailed and almost overwhelmingly packed Q1 and potentially Q2, and then Q3 and Q4, it's kind of empty. You're like, I don't know. That's because these very specific milestones, it's easier to break things down smaller when you're closer to being able to accomplish it and you've already been thinking about what's going to happen. So I don't know a lot of the things are going to be happening in months 6 through 12 of the coming year. All the things that I wrote as milestones to achieve these goals, I'm going to get started and try to accomplish in just about the first half of the year. Of the second half of the year, I know is going to be emerging based on how well things are going. The first product, I've developed it and I'm making it. It could be that I'm having so much success that completely deprioritize something else and fully pursue whatever strategies are working to sell that product. I just don't know. So something I put into the second quarter here, reevaluate Q2, Q3, Q4 goals based on the Tribus decision, and really you should do that anyway. This should be a living document for you when it comes to the actual specific tasks. The goals are great. That's going to stay. That's going to be kind of enduring. I would encourage you to think about that as I'm going to set this goal now and leave it to the end of the year. But the actual actionable steps are going to be a living document that you add, you subtract, and you work through. So this is kind of the end of this exercise. Like I said, I would take some time, really put some thought into it. This is the perfect time of year to be doing it. I'm stoked that you're putting that kind of intention into it. Go ahead, start with the first question. Do your stream of conscious. Think about 2019. Think about how it's different from 2018. Think about, what's aspirational for you? What do you want to accomplish? And be realistic about all the places you're spending your time. If there's anything you can cut out, cut it out. Focus is so, so key. And as you can see, I have more buckets than I probably should. I would not recommend as many buckets as I'm showing here, unless you want to spend as much time as I do on these things, which is all of my time. So think about that. Be realistic with yourself. And as you bucket these things in the milestone categories, you're going to start working through this. Your Q1 will start, and you'll start doing these things. You may have specific goals around working out or a meditation practice or something that's kind of routine or habit based. And for those goals, I would plug them specifically into your calendar. If you want to work out 3 times a week, literally put them into your calendar in times and honor them as if they were some other meeting with somebody else. It's less about planning, daily activities for those things and more about how can you make that as mechanical and automatic as possible. Remove thinking or remove motivation, put a system in place where you run off of your calendar. And so anything in your calendar you honor and you do, and then put the habit-based things into your calendar. So you've literally specifically outlined the time that you're going to take and put towards a certain goal or a certain project. And that'll really, really help you. When you're trying to spend too much time thinking and looking for motivation to do a task, it just won't happen. The more that you can schedule and program your life so that you're not thinking and you're not relying on motivation or not relying on yourself to remember and convince yourself this is what I should be doing, do it ahead of time, schedule it, do it, you'll see the results. So thanks for watching this. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. You should have my email, but it's j@jklaus.com. Let me know if you have any questions. I hope this helps you. I would love to hear if or how it helped you. And here's to a big and successful 2019. Cheers.